Hey there and welcome to another part in my Cities Skylines design guide. Today we're going to be looking at slopes. In fact, we're going to try to create the most realistically looking slopes that we possibly can, given the limitations of the game. I'm going to show you a few examples, but you might be wondering, what do you mean by realistic slopes? Well, to answer that question, let me show you what I think it's not a realistic slope. Here we have a segment of road and a segment of rail. Let me focus your attention on rail first because, well, this is to me the most obvious mistake. This super steep climb up here would never exist in real life, and the reason is because trains really can't climb very steep grades. They just can't. There's physics involved, and if you want to learn more about those, I'm including a link in the description to a video presented by James May from Top Gear that literally explains why trains can't go uphill. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. But let me show you real quick also the road segment that is basically a copy of this rail segment. You could argue that cars can indeed climb uphill at this level. Sure, that's a possibility, and you would still find these kinds of slopes in real life. However, usually engineers try to make slopes a lot more gentle, especially if you're expecting traffic from trucks. And you could see that in freeways where slopes are not anywhere near this examples. But let me show you a few others. For example, over here we have basically a similar layout than before, but this time around we have a terraform platform. And even though this looks a lot smoother, it's still pretty steep, definitely for rail. For road, it's definitely better than before. Now, here's another example. In this case, we have tunnels. As you can see, this angles of attack are really steep, and this is something people usually do. They just hide everything under the rug, hoping that nobody would notice. But I notice when I watch other people's videos on YouTube and see screenshots on Reddit and whatnot, I totally pay attention to this and notice that they just like, whatever, let's just put a tunnel underneath. So yeah, these are big no-nos. In fact, over here, this pretty much looks like a roller coaster. The way this goes down, yeah. Especially if you're using Anarchy, the Anarchy mod, where you are not really restricted. The game actually puts some restriction when it comes to slopes, but if you have the Anarchy mod on, you can do crazier things, and people usually keep those, which blows my mind. But yeah, don't do this. And now for the final example, we have a similar pattern where a road tries to climb a mountain here or a hill, and we end up getting this weird bends over here, which, sure, again, this doesn't look completely unrealistic, but at the same time, it doesn't look very, very polished too. So there's things that you can do in order to improve this. Now, looking at this rail segment, well, clearly this doesn't look great. The fact that this curve over here goes this steep, this quickly, and on a curve, it just doesn't really work. Okay, now that we know what the problem is, let's go try to fix them one by one. First, I'm going to try to improve this tunnel. As you see here, it's way too steep. So we're going to go into the menu. We're going to click at the beginning of the track, and we're going to go down by 12 meters. Now, you see here that the game is telling us the slope is too steep. But if we reach all the way to, at some point near the 6 unit mark, the game allows us to build this. However, this is how it used to be, and it was definitely too steep. So what we're going to do is stretch this all the way to 12 units, and we're basically calculating 1 meter per unit. So since we're going 12 meters down, we're going 12 unit out. And in fact, if I extend it to 13 units, the game resets our slope, and we really don't want that. So we're going to keep it at 12 units. And if we make the change, you can see that this slope is way more gentle. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's definitely an improvement. As for the road segment, well, I mean, you can pretty much do the same technique that you did here, just extended by 12 units and 12 meters down. But since we're right next to a hill, let me show you something else that you can do that actually might make things a little bit more interesting in your city. So just extend this road segment right up against the foothill of this little mountain, and once you're there, just continue straight and then press page down to go into the underground mode. And right about there, you can pretty much carve a tunnel into the mountain, and when you exit it, you can see that the road actually stays in level and it doesn't go under, which means that once you're in the mountain, you can pretty much go wherever you want. And that's another way to avoid having a really steep tunnel entrance. Now let's try to improve this this connection right here. We have terrain that's about 12 meters tall. In fact, I think it's about 13 meters. But I'm just going to show you anyways how the fastest way you can achieve the smoothest transition without doing pretty much anything other than dragging a segment of road. So I'm going to start doing it over here. And I'm going to go about 12 units, the same thing that we did before. And as you can see, we get a really decent slope coming down. In fact, let me show you how it compares if I extend it a little bit further than that, let's say 16 units. And if I show you the two side by side, you'll notice that this one is much more gentle and this one is a lot steeper. However, this one lands at the 0 meter marks, assuming that's the ground floor for this map. But in this case, if I continue this road segment over here a little bit longer, we get another slope that doesn't look great. This little bump right here is something that in general I try to avoid. Now, how do you deal with terrain differences that are not exactly, 12 meters or 24 meters tall? Well, there's a few things that you can do. Let me show you. The first slope that I'm going to try involves building overpasses. So what I'm going to do first is create a segment coming out of the upper level, and we're going to raise it by 12 meters. This first segment is going to be completely flat. It won't be sloped at all. So depending on how close you want this to be to your main road, you will have to do a few things. If you just want it, 5 units or more, you can just drag it and raise it by 12 meters and that will be that. But if you wanted to get it really, really close, you might want to have to offset your terrain. So in this case, I went down by 6 meters, so half of that. And if you move your mouse that ways, you will get different heights. So just try to align it as much as you can, have it perfectly flat, or as much as you can. It doesn't really have to be absolutely perfect, but it really helps. So that way we have this segment over here. It really helps when you have the precision engineering mod. That's these are the numbers that you see on the screen, the number of units and the number of degrees and meters in height. I highly encourage you to download that, but again, you don't need any of that in order to achieve this. All that's left to do is extend this by 12 units. Again, 1 meter per unit in terms of sloping. And just extend the road a little bit further. You'll notice that once you do that, the road or the slope sort of shrinks a little bit. It's still fine. I think this looks okay and acceptable. And there's a few other techniques to get a more gentle slope coming down that we're gonna look in the example over here. But for now, this works and I'm gonna keep it. Now, let's switch gears to terraforming. Let's go into the landscaping menu and choose the slope terrain. And the way this works is you want to right click on whatever your target height is. In this case, it's the top of this hill. So I'm going to right click here. And then you basically start left clicking from whatever it is that you want to start your descent to, or ascent to start from. So let's just assume we want a really thin, like super gradual slope. And we're going to have it start at the beginning of this road over here. So I'm just going to left click and start dragging it all the way to our hill. And as you can see, we get a perfectly smooth slope coming down. Then all that's left to do is grab the road segment and just simply drag it as much as we need to. That way we get a super gentle slope, and compared it to the one in the back, you can clearly see how smooth this is. In fact, this technique also works really good for rails. So I'm gonna right click here, I'm gonna extend it by about this much, and then we're gonna start raising this up. And as you can see, we get a really, really gentle slope going up. Let's just click and drag the rail segment right about there. And if you compare this to this one, I mean, you clearly see the difference between the two. And you can even take it a step further. Let's just grab the leveling tool. Again, I'm gonna right click on this flat surface. Should probably do another tutorial on terraforming because I think it's really, really useful to get really amazing details in your city. We're gonna do this on both sides. And now you end up with this design piece that, well, you can decorate with rocks or, oh, you know what else you can do? Let me show you real quick. I have the key anarchy mod, but basically you can add some retaining walls. And now your train track is kind of hold by this scheme. So that looks pretty neat. Terraforming is easy, but what if you want to achieve the same result just by using bridges or overpasses? Well, it turns out that that is pretty easy too. Let me show you real quick. By default, the game has a feature called elevation step that is set all the way to max. You just reset it by clicking on it. And as you can see here, this means that the steps going up or down when we change the height of the road, it's limited by 12 meters. So in this case, we're gonna go to right about there, 6 units and 12 meters down, which is the minimum slope that the game will allow us to do. And as you can see here, we now have mirror slopes on each side that don't look particularly great in my opinion. So let me show you something else that you can do. I'm gonna delete that little segment over there. And we're gonna bring this to half, which means that now instead of 12 meters up or down, we can only do 6. And that's giving us a little bit more flexibility. So remember that 1 meter equals 1 unit in terms of sloping to get it, perfectly smooth. It's not like a real mathematical calculation that you can do, but it's a pretty good rule of thumb that you can follow. So we're gonna extend this by 12 units and 6 meters down. So basically half of what we're doing before. And let's bring this also to 12 meters down and extend a little bit further. And as you can see here, we have a perfectly smooth slope going up and basically 24 units that looks really, really nice. Definitely much nicer than this. Let's apply the same technique to this rail segment, but in this case, instead of going 6 meter increments, we're gonna go 3 meter increments. So let me bulldoze this, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing. Extend this by 12 units, go down by 3 meters, another 12 units, go down by 3 meters, and then extend it further out. And as you can see here, it's a way more gentle slope going up, at least compared to the one in the back with the road. And it's way more realistic and believable if you do it this way. Now, sure, like I said before, this takes a big footprint. So there's a few things that you can do in order to reduce the footprint a little bit. Let's just assume for a moment that you want to connect this road segment to the tree line over here. We can just simply click and drag. This is what most people would do. And you will end up with something like this. That looks okay. It's not amazing, but it looks okay. Problem is, it's a bit lazy. So let me show you something else that you can do. Let me grab the road tool again. And in this case, I'm going to use the curved road. And I set it to the minimum elevation step. So what I'm going to do is extend this by 6 units going forward. And then another 6 units going to the left. And before I commit this bridge, I'm going to go down 3 meters, which puts us at 9 meters. Repeat the same thing, 6 units to moving forward, and then another 6 units going left. And then we're going to go down by another 3 meters. And this is where it comes interesting. We're going to go 5 units now, right about there. Another 5 units in, and then bring it down by another 3 meters. And finally, we're going to go another 5 units in, and another 3 meters, which puts us at ground level. Now, it's just as simple as connecting a straight road over here. And voila, we have a nice, smooth, really gentle, almost spiral that connects to this road. And this obviously occupies a lot less footprint. In fact, you can even have a narrower circle by using the technique that I just did. I wouldn't recommend going any narrower than this. I guess it all depends on the speed. If you're using a freeway, you really want to have really big circles. For the road, I think it can go a little bit narrower. I would not recommend this for rail. So for this last example, we're going to be doing some terraforming. It's slightly more complex than the examples before, but it's actually not too bad, not too difficult to do. So let me first go start by getting a flat terrain at the very top, which will be our target. So let's just assume that this is where we want to go. Just make a bit of a plateau up here. We're going to drag a road segment. This will be our reference connection. There we go. And we're going to start from down here, I'm guessing. This will be where the road will start. So we'll connect all the way up here. And we're going to grab a few height differences that will help us. So I'm going to right click here and try to flatten this whole part out as much as we can. And then let's just grab this height. There we go. That seems about right. Let's extend it a little bit for this side. And I think that's all we need for now. So next we're going to pick the slope terrain tool and we're going to click our target height. And then we're going to click on our starting point. Same way we did before with the other examples. And that way we have a really nice gentle slope. That looks okay, perfect. And let's try to do the same over here. And this will be our target. So right click there, and this will be our beginning. So left click and drag all the way up here. I'm sure that this is already giving you a pretty good idea of what we're going to try to do. Let's grab the road tool and use the freeform for this. So I think it will make our lives a lot easier. Actually, we're going to extend this a little bit straight, and then we're going to go down by about this much. And we do have a bend here, so we can try improving that. It's sometimes as simple as extended it as a straight lane. We have another one over here. It really helps if you just do things in one segment increments and not in steps like I did. But this pretty much gives you a really smooth switchback going up or down. It's a bit squiggly, but if you play enough time with it, you'll be able to achieve a really smooth gradient going up. Finally, we're going to connect this rail segment with this one at the bottom of the hill. And as you can see here, I pretty much terraformed this mountain, added a few more irregularities that we're going to try to sort through. So what I'm going to do first is go to the landscaping tool and find, let's see, so this is our height. I think right about here is where I'm going to start. So I want to level out an area straight off here. So I'm guessing right about here will be fine. And we're going to level this whole plane like this. And now we're going to grab the slope tool, set the target, and start clicking, moving forward in a curved fashion. And now this platform and this platform have a smooth slope coming up. And now we're going to set this to the target and this for the beginning. And we're going to repeat the same principle. Something like that. Now all that's left is to start getting our rail in place. So let's see if we can get it straight up. That seems like a reasonable slope. It might help if you're trying to climb a really tall mountain. It actually helps if you extend it a bit further out. But for the purposes of this example, I think this works. And there's also the issue of like tinkering with the curves to get it more perfectly. So I'll let you play with that too. So I'm gonna try to make my best to get the curve right. But as you can see here, we have a nice gentle slope coming from the basically the river or water level all the way up to this top of the mountain in a really, really gentle fashion. There's a few bumps here and there, but you can tweak those out using the techniques that I already showed you before. Want to take it a step further? Why not? Let's just do some terraforming right next to it. And we can bring the terrain down all around this track. The terrain underneath the railroad won't change unless, of course, we demolish it. If you do demolish it, it will mess everything up. So I highly recommend you do the terraforming afterwards. But you can do something like this. Let me try to smooth this out a little bit so it doesn't look so rough. And if you add a few rocks here and there, you pretty much end up with a beautiful train line that cuts through, I don't know, like a canyon or something like that. So, I don't know, pretty much the sky is the limit when it comes to Cities Skylines. And the level of detail you can add is just limited by your imagination. This is one of the many videos in my design guide for Cities Skylines. I'm including a link in the description to the full playlist in case you haven't seen the rest. And also, if any of these techniques are useful for you, I love it if you can click that like button. Furthermore, if you're new to my channel, you should know that I have a regular Cities Skylines series where I apply many of these design concepts and more. The footage you see here belongs to the city I'm currently building, and if you like what you see, the link to the playlist is also in the description of this video. I highly encourage you to subscribe and be notified when new episodes come out if you haven't already. That's all I have to say for now. I want to thank you all for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. So that puts us at 9 meters height. Let's do that again. 6 meters. 6 units by 6 units, and then bring it down by another 6 meters. By another 3 meters. God damn it.